A bunch of random scientists are busy doing scientist stuff out in the middle of New Mexico when suddenly a guy falls from the sky and lands on their car. I guess that's stuff that happens in superhero movies. Flashback to Odin giving a history lesson, a lesson that pretty much everyone ignores, including his two sons, Thor and Loki. His two totally 100% biological sons. Odin lets his sons know that only one of them is going to get to be king, pretty much obviously Thor because he's the favorite and he has a special hammer. This is great parenting right here. Flash forward a couple of years and Thor is having a party where he swears to protect the peace. Then a couple frost giants step in and ruin his party and his immediate reaction is to kill them all. Thor flips some tables when his dad is like, hey, yeah, let's not kill them all. And Loki comes up and is like, hey, you should totally not disobey father and start a war. Starting a war sounds like a great plan. Thor then goes and gives a pep talk to his 4 interchangeable friends whose name nobody remembers except for Sif, because she's kind of cool. Then they all go to start a war, bringing Loki along with them because, hey, why not? They get to Jotunheim, Thor punches his frost giant in the face, and then proceeds to get beat up. Also, Loki's hand turns blue for just a second. Yeah, I'm sure that's totally normal and healthy and not weird at all. Thankfully, Odin shows up and bails them out, and Laufey promises a war. Great! Odin isn't happy about the war thing for pretty obvious reasons, so he takes away Thor's special hammer and sends him to Earth. Thor does not like Earth. Also, Thor is the guy who fell on the scientists at the beginning. Oh, that makes sense. While the scientists are busy taking Thor to the hospital, a couple of guys find the hammer in the middle of a crater in the middle of New Mexico, and they can't lift it, which is interesting. Also, Phil Coulson shows up. The 3 scientists, Jane Foster, Eric Selvig, and Darcy Lewis, realize that Thor was inside the giant space beam that they were studying, so they head back to the hospital to pick him up. Meanwhile, back on Asgard, Loki tells the Warrior 3 and Sif that he was a tattletale. They don't react well. Loki decides to go play with the thing that the frost giants were trying to steal at the beginning of the movie, and it turns him blue. That's totally normal, I'm sure. Turns out Loki's actually Laufey's son and his family has been lying to him his whole life. That's totally not going to be mentally scarring. Anyways, back to Thor. He finds out about his hammer and immediately goes to get it. Jane wants to help. Don't follow the crazy guy. But he's hot. Coulson confiscates all of Jane's stuff. She gets mad. They also took Darcy's iPod. She's sad.
Odin decides that this is a good time to take a really long nap. Loki is king now.
That's not gonna end well. Jane's still really upset, so she decides to go help the weird hot guy. Initiate infiltration of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s temporary base. Also, Hawkeye's in this movie. What? Did anyone remember this? So Thor gets arrested by S.H.I.E.L.D. and Coulson tries to interrogate him, but he says nothing, partially because he probably only understands about 5% of what Coulson's saying. And then Loki ghosts himself in, tells Thor a handful of lies about why he can't come home, and then pieces out to go do Loki things. What are those Loki things, you may ask? Scheming with Laufey, apparently. Oh boy. After Selvig bails Thor out of S.H.I.E.L.D. jail, he goes back to flirting with Jane and explaining how science and magic are pretty much the same thing. This is the key for Thor's friends to magic/science themselves back to Earth so that they can complain to Thor about Loki. Loki doesn't like them complaining, so he sends a killer robot thing after them to destroy everything. Everyone decides to fight the robot, but Thor's pretty much useless at this point because he doesn't have any powers. Still, he decides to be the one to do the big sacrifice thing up against the robot, and he gets completely smacked down. Thankfully, due to the power of plot purposes, the hammer realizes that he's getting smacked down, deems him worthy, and flies back to him just in time for him to destroy the robot. The robot self-destructs due to Thor's pure awesomeness, and Thor makes Coulson give back all of Jane's stuff, kisses her, and then yeets himself back to Asgard to deal with his annoying brother. Loki stabs Laufey in the back and then runs away to destroy the rest of the frost giants before Thor can give him a brotherly lecture. Since the lecture isn't working out, Thor decides to give him a brotherly beatdown instead. They get busy beating each other up on the Bifrost Bridge while Loki also destroys an entire civilization at the same time. Nice multitasking. However, the multitasking doesn't quite work out for him because he falls into the void whilst Thor saves Jotunheim. Rest in peace, Loki. He is dead. He's 100% totally dead. We'll never see him again. Thor's sad, but he's less of a jerk now. Though Jane is totally gonna think he's a jerk because he had to destroy the Rainbow Bridge, so now he can't visit her. Alright, can we take a second to acknowledge how many Dutch angles were in this movie? I'm not kidding, half the movie is like just tilted. Where was one of the tripods broken? I bet the tripod was broken. Oh, also in the after credits scene, Eric is recruited by S.H.I.E.L.D. to study this weird space cube and— Wait a minute!